Episode 2 of National Geographic Hurricane Katrina documentary, Race Against Time. And the second episode was crazier than the first. So crazy that these people went through, I don't know, it feels like this was in America. So some key points that I took away from that episode, shocking points, were that episode 1 ended with, where is the water coming from? So episode 2 starts with the levees are breaking. The levees are breaking in areas and water is just gushing in. So after Hurricane Katrina, the water level was pretty low. But once things started to settle, the water was just rising, and it was rising rapidly. They were saying from the bottom of the tire to now the car is covered with water within a matter of minutes, which obviously gives people little to no time to prepare or to evacuate. Also, there was conflicting news stories because all of the media was in the French Quarter, which had no water, and it was being told through the news that, we thought this was going to be this big storm, and it actually was not. Like, New Orleans is so lucky. Meanwhile, people are literally drowning, like, on the other side of the city. So the water's coming in too fast. FEMA is notified, but slow to respond, and really no response. So people are forced to get into random boats or find random boats to try to help their neighbors. Firefighters are doing what they can to help others, but still there's like conflicting stories of like, did the levee really break? And so finally people started like physically saying that there is no levee, like the levee's gone, which is why all the water is rushing in. New Orleans is under sea level, so basically the water's up and they're down, so there's nothing keeping these rivers from flowing through the city, basically. So once the levees broke, the city just flooded in. People are trying to call for help to help get them out of their homes as they're flooding. And it's crazy because some people are like going to their attic, and it's hard because you can't even like tell someone your address because your home is literally floating away. Like, you can't even say, this is my address on the street, because you don't even know if you're on your street, if you floated down, down the street. Some people said they had to like separate into the house to keep balance, because if everyone was on one side, like the house would like lean or feel unsafe. So they had to keep the balance in the house. Everybody spread out. The water was over their first floor, over the second floor, into the attic. Some people, that's why a lot of people were on the roofs. But even then, people were in higher buildings, and still it was just not high enough to escape the water. Those who were at the Superdome were already struggling because it was humid. If you've ever been in New Orleans, like, the humidity is crazy. It was humid, it was hot. There's obviously no running AC. People who are around have no news reports because they have no power, so they don't know what's going on. The toilets were like overflowing, so it smelled so bad, and it was just hot and miserable conditions. So as the levees break, more and more people started flooding into the Superdome. They were literally just getting dropped off. Way more people than should have been there were getting just dropped off, because where else are they going to go? So more and more people are coming to the Superdome. And then also those who were actually in okay areas, like they had no flooding, still were forced to leave their homes. I think episode 3 is going to cover like that part of it, like who were these people that forced them to leave their homes and why. But those who were actually okay were forced to leave their homes. They were either going to the high freeway, like overpasses, or to the Superdome. So thousands of people are like now flooding to the Superdome. But also those who stuck around and then were forced to go to the Superdome, they felt like they were going to worse conditions. So like the water was higher, the water was nasty. They had to walk also. They had to leave their homes and walk. And they had kids, so they were like walking through this nasty water. The 1960s, 1980s, they had Hurricane Betsy come through, which was basically the same situation. They actually had a worse hurricane. So this really bad hurricane, the levees broke, the city flooded, and this was supposed to be the learning time to get things right. But of course, the levees, even after that, were not rebuilt correctly, because they already knew what happened. So when they were rebuilt, they were not rebuilt correctly. And when Katrina happened, they were actually not still constructing it, but the levees were not finished. So the levees were bound to break. They were bound to not hold the water. So that's the summary of episode 2. It's actually, the whole thing is crazy. I'm going to start episode 3 later today, but if you've been watching, let me know what you think. But it's crazy watching this, and this was America. The government was not helping the city, and they were literally on their own to fend for themselves. It was apparently talked about for years, like, yo, these levees are not going to hold. These levees are not going to hold. And then they didn't hold.